Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen, where we discuss business, culture, leadership, and the mindset it takes to build a business and life you're proud of. My name is Josh. Let's get into it and let's get shit done. One of the irritating phrases that I hear people say, and I think this is a good testament to mindset, Greg, is when somebody goes, "Why would I work that hard for somebody else? Fuck the man. I'll do this myself." I'm not working to the grave, working for the man. So I opened the gate with that because the conversation you and I are going to have today will challenge your limiting beliefs or your perception or your ideas of what success and owning a business or being an entrepreneur actually looks like. So right out of the gate, I will tell you that, if your mindset is screw the man, I want to do this myself, you really don't need to be going into business because you're already starting in a negative mindset and you're about to attack something that is harder than anything that you've ever done before. If this is your first time wanting to be an entrepreneur or first time opening a business, you've never, I don't care about sports. You've never experienced anything like this. The reason I say that is because sports is finite. You have a start, you have an end, you have a clear scoreboard, you have two teams, and you're trying to do the same thing.
This is an endless endurance race.
That's right. It's infinite.
Endless.
So you can't go into this. You don't want to start in the red emotionally because you're putting yourself so far behind. So I want to flip this over now because there's a position that could exist in every company. Could exist. It doesn't exist in every company. It could and should exist in every company, and that's an intrapreneur. So we're going to talk about the differences of intrapreneur versus entrepreneur and what that looks like. What are the pros? What are the cons? What's ugly on each side? And ultimately recognize that at some point you have no business being an entrepreneur, but you can be one hell of an intrapreneur for a company. So let's talk about what an intrapreneur is, and then we'll open this up. An intrapreneur, and this is where we're going to get the pushback, Greg. An intrapreneur is somebody that thinks like an owner, but doesn't have equity in the business, doesn't own a piece of the business. And the reason I say pushback, I think somebody's immediate response is, why would I do that for somebody else? And my pushback on that is you'll probably be more successful doing that for somebody else than trying to do it for yourself.
Without question. The right somebody else.
So the prerequisite, right? The company needs good leadership. It needs structure. It needs KPIs. It needs transparency. It needs communication. You need to be a successful intrapreneur, you have to be at a successful company. You can't be a successful intrapreneur in a company that doesn't measure performance. That is why you get frustrated and go buy a truck and buy a logo and slap it on the side of it and buy tools and start your own business and fuck up the market. Because the real thing that you wanted wasn't available in your current situation.
So you thought you'd invent it.
I can do this better than he can. Why am I making that son of a bitch fatter?
Not to say that those don't exist, because there certainly are some people that take advantage of motivated employees. I never went into business with that mindset. I never went into business thinking like an entrepreneur. I wish I did. in hindsight, because I would have learned so much more, so much faster. I decided to jump in and learn it the hard way, which is, I guess, the acceptable way to do it these days, which with the technology and the information that we have at our fingertips is stupid. It's just plain stupid at this point. Educate yourselves. There's so much information out there now. It doesn't mean you have to go to business school. It doesn't mean you have to wait 10 years. Educate yourselves a little bit. Try to be the best employee you can to the point of limitation. And again, that limit can be anywhere. There's some leaders that don't even let you get started, or I should say lack of leader, let you get started. And then there's some that just will never let go. And that's a huge problem in the industries, is that people, like most entrepreneurs or skilled tradespeople, they're afraid to let go. But that's because there's no forward thinking. There's no planning, right? There's no, what's the end game? I'm just going to go to work and work until I can, or I'm going to hire a bunch of guys and get work and they're going to do work for me. Okay, but where's the plan? Where is that growth plan? Where is that, the stages in which the people are, you're elevating your team and you're growing and they're growing and you're giving them that opportunity to grow and then letting them see the rewards of their growth. But if you're never going to let go, then why would anybody step up? And this is from the entrepreneur side, the leadership side. Like, why you're going to expect everybody to come in and bust ass every day with no plan and no expectations of growth? They're going to hit a ceiling, whatever that ceiling is, because everybody's different and every company's different. And then they're going to do just that. They're going to be like, well, this is the best thing I think I can get my hands on. So the next step from here is just going to stop my own business. I can do this better than him. He doesn't appreciate me. But if every entrepreneur would look at it as, okay, I'm going to be in this thing for X amount of time, 10 years. You want to do it for 60? Do it for 60. But do it alongside somebody, because at some point, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to die with that company, or you're not going to be able to work anymore and that company's going to die. Or you can plan to have somebody take it over. And what better person to take it over than a seasoned entrepreneur? And that's a win for them too, because they put all that time in, they've made the money for the man. They've also got incentivized and paid along the way, probably more than they would in that time period if they started their own company. And then they're at the end earned, deserved, rewarded with the company or a piece in the company. Mm-hmm. Or that will pay them far more than they could ever imagine.
Yeah. Even if it's an opportunity to purchase, right?
Right.
It's being able to acquire the thing that you helped build,
which is awesome. And you're doing it on somebody else's back and somebody else's dime. So yeah, let them make a little money because they're dealing with all the ass ache. Well, again, like this is a perception game, right? Because the intrapreneurs, or the lack of, the ones that are like, I'm done making money for this guy, he doesn't do anything all day. You have, just because you don't see him with the tools on every day, or her with the tools on every day, doesn't mean that they're not doing anything. In some cases, they're doing nothing. They're golfing all day. And yes, they're doing things behind the scenes that you don't know about, that are far more stressful than the day-to-day tasks and things that you're managing on a job site. Because owning and operating a company is, again, infinitely challenging. The challenges just keep changing and they get bigger. But if you're trying to tackle all the tiny problems of when you started a business and the new growing bigger problems, you're going to burn yourself out. I've done it. Been there. That's when you start delegating and you teach people, this is how you deal with these tiny problems that you think is a giant problem, and teach you how to relook at it as a tiny problem. And then you can manage these problems. I'll manage the bigger problems. And you elevate and you move ahead. So you can focus on growing the company, working on the business instead of in the business. But again, that goes back to first having a plan or the opportunity for an entrepreneur.
Well, I think the line in this is when you don't own the company, but you do think and behave and perform like an owner, and those people exist. We have them in our companies, and they're, I mean, they're just, I could talk for an hour straight about how great they are and what they bring to the table and the value that they add and how much we respect their opinion and their perspective.
Absolutely.
being the entrepreneur, the line is you have to be able to cross over into understanding what it takes to run and operate a business and work on the business, while at the same time you're going to be in that seat. You know, you have a role or a position. I don't care if it's project manager, operations manager, lead technician, doesn't matter. When you embrace that entrepreneur spirit and that mindset, you need to recognize that you need to ask permission to look at the other side of the aisle. And I know, and this is probably maturity on my part, but I know that anybody in the company, if they called and were like, hey, I would like to better understand what it takes to make this business successful on the operation side and how that impacts what I do.
That's a great question. The way you phrase the question. If those who are thinking this take that exact language and ask that exact question.
Yeah. And then, you know, once my head exploded and I got it back together, I would welcome that conversation every time.
It's a great question. Instead of I work really hard. I think I deserve and I want to own a piece of this place someday. Be like, help me understand how I can. Not marching in there all huffed and puffed and you've put in your 2 months and you deserve 50% of this company because you do all the work. No. Leave that shit at the door.
Well, there clearly has to be an ego balance in this, right? Because
yes, there does.
Because I mean, I really think that someone that is willing to take on the responsibility of ownership without the risk of ownership, that's a significant role. And when when you're asking for that responsibility and you're asking for that insight and you're asking to look on the other side of the aisle, you need to be humble and quiet and ask questions, but listen. And not go in there and go, hey, you know, I think that I should be operations manager here because these are some ideas that I have of how we can make this company better.
And don't pretend like you know it all. That is one thing that peeves me is when I see potential in people, like people who could be the next entrepreneur. Because I have offered this position to people in my company for well over a decade. And everyone walks in and they're like, yeah, I want to do this. And then they yes me to death. And yeah, I can handle, and I know how to do that. And we're going to do this. And it's all crap. It's all talk. Actions speak louder than words. Not all of them are their fault. Some of that comes down to the growth in my leadership style and understanding this. But I've always wanted this for people. I've always wanted them to elevate. I've never used the term ever. If people say, how many people work for you? I say there's 10 people on our team, or they work with me. Nobody works for me. I'm not a slave driver. I put my pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. You're no different. I work for the same company you work for. I just happen to be the guy in charge. Doesn't make me a better person or above you. We're equal. We're part of the team. We work together. You do not work for me. And none of the guys in the company, the apprentices, they don't work for the licensed guy or work for the PM. They work with. Everybody works with each other. And that language is important.
It's very important. We, when I say we interviewed a young man a week or so ago that I've been slowly recruiting since May of last year when we bought the HVAC company. This young man has been on my hit list since day one. He is one of 4 on my hit list. And I say we because our project manager, see, I treat him like an owner. So we met up with this young man. They have a working relationship past. So they worked together. They were on the same install team together coming up in the industry. But until I was literally asked, so what is it that you're looking for? I just let the conversation float wherever, and I let the project manager and that individual, I mean, they talked about their kids and they caught up, and we had a bunch of laughs, and my point to that is, if you are going to create an opportunity in your company for an entrepreneur, or you have someone that you want to kind of pour into or empower or elevate into this position, you need to treat them like an owner. Same thing. The other thing that I do with our project manager is I don't meet with any of the vendors without him. And I'm not saying I don't, like, if one of the vendors calls me and we don't have a conversation, but if we are meeting about things, products, promotions, how business is going, he's involved in every one of those meetings with our vendors, because I need them to know that he has equity in the decision making,
The authority,
and
or
he has some of the authority. And I mean, they don't know that is the tactic, but they now treat him as such. And now they communicate with him more than they communicate with me, which is what we want.
Because, I mean, so what happens if you don't do that, Josh?
Oh, I become the bottleneck of every conversation, every decision. Pitfalls, breakdown, and bottlenecks, which we'll do a podcast on eventually. But that all becomes me. And nobody has the authority to make a decision. They can't call anybody and say, well, you'll have to call Josh, and then the vendor calls me. It's like, I am putting such a low glass ceiling on the success and performance and opportunity of the team by not doing those things. So it's just as important for the owner to be humble, to listen, to ask questions in that process, as it is the individual that it wants to level up. And you can't just come in and be like, all right, well, took me 20 years to figure this out, so good luck. Which it happens. Like, people actually say that to their employees and to their team and to their managers. And you want me to be successful at the level we're at now, but you want me to spend the next 20 years treading water in this position? Cool. We just caused a drain hole in the ship that's going to leak over the next 20 years, because there will be no growth. So good luck paling water out of that thing. Another piece of that too is, when you're the owner, you have to understand that yes, it's your company to protect, but you're not going to be able to be as protective. You're going to have to empower people to make decisions and fail.
You mean let go a little bit?
Let go just a little.
They're going to make mistakes, and you're going to fuck up. And yep. That's it. Period.
Yeah, no elaboration, right? They are going to make mistakes.
Right. Like, you haven't.
I have a pretty good barometer with how I respond to our teams making mistakes. And the baseline is, if you've messed something up that I've never messed up, or if you've made the same mistake twice, that's pretty much my barometer of how I'm going to react to a mistake, to a failure, to a situation. And yet, has anyone fucked up more than I have? Burn up more motors, broke more boards, fucked up more parts. No one that I've worked with has made more mistakes than me yet.
Well, that's because you, as that person or the owner or the lead, you're willing to push the line to make those mistakes, and well past that line.
Yeah, thank you.
there have been things that I know that I've gotten into that I'm like, I shouldn't do this, and this is going to backfire, and boom, it explodes in my face. I'm like, all right, well, I can't say I didn't see that coming. The lesson was learned before I even did it. I already knew it was going to go the way it went, but I still proceeded.
Can we touch on that point for a minute? Because I think it's a good leadership point is you, how do you respond when you make a mistake, and how do you respond to someone on your team when they make the same mistake or make a similar mistake? And what I mean by that is you can't yell and be demeaning and authoritative, right? This authoritarian position when someone made the same mistake that you made. Like, you have to treat that sincerely. You know, I'm not saying that failure should be laughed off and not, there shouldn't be conversations or consequences or anything about it. But if you're like, what, fuck it, I'm glad I'm the owner, you know, and you do just brush it off, and then tomorrow Bob makes a mistake and you rip him open because he made a mistake. You have to be a resolute leader across the board, especially to your team. You should be harder on yourself than you are on your team, because that sets the expectation for them. And when you make a mistake, the best thing that you can do as a leader is stand up in front of your team and go, I did this yesterday. It was a huge mistake. Here's what I learned.
And we're all going to learn from it.
And we are all going to learn from it, because I don't want any of you to have to deal with what I dealt with yesterday. Instead of going, I hope nobody saw that.
Well, there's a time and a place for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're working at Mrs. Jones's house and you shit your pants in the basement and you got to bag up your underwear,
that's not a lesson everybody can learn from. We'll keep that one to ourselves.
You don't have to tell anybody that.
Let everybody learn that lesson on their own. That's called never trust a fart.
Never trust a fart. Never eat Taco Bell at 11 a.m. That's stupid.
Good stuff.
I wish I could title this "Don't Trust a Fart," but but creating and being able to build that opportunity for someone in your team to operate at that level. And this was something that I remember vividly the day that this happened. One of the guys in the first HVAC company, he'd been there for some time, and I had worked with him at a previous company and so on. So we had a working history. And he came up to me one day and he said, hey, I just want you to know, I have no desire to own my own business. I just want to be part of one that's successful. And until that moment, I thought everybody wanted to own their own business. That was my mindset. I was like, everybody thinks the way I think. So everybody wants to start their own business. Most people don't want to start their own business. And I think a percentage of people that do start their own business didn't want to start their own business anyway. They just did it out of either ego or necessity or whatever the circumstance was.
Kind of like a last resort type of thing, like we talked about on the other was it a couple podcasts ago, about guys who just, they couldn't make it as a technician, so they're like, well, I guess I have to start my own business because I can't get a job anywhere else. That is probably the worst reason to start a business. I can't think of a worse one. I suck at my job and I can't keep a job. It's everybody else's fault. So I'm going to start my own business.
Prepare
and
to
I know
be
that's
humbled.
not what you're telling yourself in your head. That's not what you hear, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You've been from job to job and you couldn't cut it. So you're going to go start your own company? Help me understand.
I heard something one day, and I'm pretty sure I've shared it here before, but the guy said, most of the time, the first company that you start, you're trying to be right. And the second time you start a company, you're trying to be successful. And when I reflected, I can tell you that stood true with me.
Me too.
Started that company because I wanted to be right. And that was more important to me than even winning.
Mm-hmm.
And now I will laugh in your face. If I don't care about being right, I don't care.
I will say that there is some serious force behind that. Like, you will die before you are wrong. So it will succeed because you have to be right. The problem is that's not sustainable.
It is not. I can tell you that.
It's a great kick in the ass and a jump start, but you got to quickly figure out that we got to shift this thing, and it's not about being right anymore.
It's like Greg Giroux drinking Jocko Go.
Man. No joke. Shit gets real.
That day you called me, I'm pretty sure I could hear you talking through time.
The world actually gets slower. And it doesn't. I'm just moving so fast that everything else seems slow.
Oh, they're so good, though.
I don't know how my heart feels about that, but...
Do you still have them? Did you just buy one that day, or did you buy a case?
No, I have an old case.
Yeah, you
still
did.
have the majority of the case.
Those are special day drinks.
Yes.
Yeah. The other, so kind of segue back onto the leadership side, is the entrepreneur has to be influential in the business. So they have to be a leader. You have to be a leader. You have to be a problem solver. You have to be a critical thinker. And I think that is a skill that we don't talk enough about, and I don't think a lot of people talk enough about it, is the need to be a critical thinker. So you have to kind of, you've got to be really good at dissecting problems and developing solutions, and understanding the mindset. And I'll give you an example. We were talking, I was over at the HVAC shop the other day, and we were discussing, we were kind of talking through a problem, system development type stuff, like, okay, well, if we did this, or what if we did this? And we got through it, and I didn't come up with the solution, by the way. They came up with the solution. They were like, yeah, I think this is what we should do. And then I said, okay, I like the idea, and here's why. It's repeatable and scalable. The solution that you're talking about is not a one-off. It's repeatable and it's scalable. And that's part of what I mean about critical thinking. If you're only looking to solve the immediate problem, you're not working to solve the future problem. It's just you're building a ladder out of Band-Aids. So the ability to think critically through a problem is, how can we solve this problem? How can we mitigate this problem? And how can we make the solution scalable and repeatable? And it doesn't even have to be by 100. Like I tell the guys all the time, I'm like, every time we talk about a solution, for me, it has to multiply by 10. I have to be able to 10x the system or the solution that you're talking about, or it won't work. And they're like, okay, makes sense. Because if you look at our team right now, and if we had 6, 7, 8, 10 more technicians in here, would that system work? Yes or no? So that's how I try to get them to think critically through it. It's like, let's not just solve this problem right now today and be done.
Let's solve all the future problems.
Yes. Let's make it scalable. Let's make it repeatable. Don't want to have to do this again.
Well, again, that's when you come up with these simple one-time fixes, same thing as with the suppliers. It comes back to you. You become the person that fixes that problem. And it took me a long time to figure that one out. I'm like, every time, at first I didn't mind because I like problem solving. So I'm like, cool, I'll fix it. But then when I've got 20 things to fix because I'm Mr. Fix It, I'm like, okay, like I don't want to do these anymore, but I never taught anybody else to do it. They just call me because I'm the guy that fixes it. So I started teaching people like, all right, this is the third time you've asked me to fix this. Do you think it's time that you remember how to fix this? This is how I do it. You do it from now on. Okay. But again, they don't even know. They're just like, okay, well, last time Greg fixed it, he knows how to do it, so I'll just call him. It's easy.
That's right. Because that's what we're training them to do.
And half the time they get it and they're like, oh, that's all you were doing? I'm like, yeah. Like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Isn't it funny when you peek behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz? It's so anticlimactic.
It's so.
Like, "Eh, that's what you're doing?" I'm like, "Yes, it's not rocket science. I'm just
I thought you were a wizard.
no,
Nope.
nope, just pushing a lot of buttons and pulling a lot of levers." But, for someone that again wants to, let's say that you want to open your own business in the future. I think the gap between now and then is you should focus on being an entrepreneur, and you should develop that relationship with your owner, or if your leader, if that relationship is available, and start exposing yourself to the other side. Because that, you mentioned it earlier, but that's something that I wish I would have got to see before I jumped into business. I would have liked to have experienced some of that back, the behind the scenes problem solving, decision making, and things that go on. So, try to get yourself in a position to experience that before you just go buy a logo and a bunch of tools.
And in hindsight, you might never have the opportunity to learn that stuff on your own because you might never get to that level where you need to. So why not be in a place where you can see it all the way to the top and say, okay, maybe I don't want to manage it at the top and I don't want to be this big, but I know how to manage it halfway to there and I can get there. And you have that skill. You've learned that skill. If you don't know it, then again, it's the other big piece is this misconception of owner and making money.
You own a business, you're rich.
Everybody that owns a business is filthy rich and they just rob from everybody. I want to own this company. Well, owning the company doesn't mean you make more money. In a lot of cases, it means you make less. Leaders eat last, at least the proper ones do. I do. You also, with ownership, you get to own everything, which means you get to own the problems. And I can tell you, in any business, there's a lot more problems to own than there is money to make it worth it. That's why people at the top make so much money, because they deal with the big problems. And they know how to do that. That's a skill. But you have to start with little problems. You can't just be owner and jump to the top, because if you take your mentality and your thought process now and you try to solve $100 million problems, you're going to fall on you wouldn't even know where to start. You'd fold up like a suitcase and evaporate. Where the person who makes 10 million bucks a year, oh, must be nice to be him. I wish I had his money. That dude solves that problem like that. Because that's what he gets paid to do, because of his experience and his know-how.
Yeah.
You got to learn that. And you got to learn how to adapt and overcome problems at the level they are. I mean, again, a level 1 problem is not a big deal. That's, I forgot to brush my teeth today. The world's not going to end. One of my vans lit on fire and burned to the ground. That's a level 10 problem. But if you're freaked out that you couldn't handle the fact that you didn't brush your teeth today, what are you going to do when the van lights on fire?
Yeah, I like how you put that. Your worth is relative to the value of the problems that you solve. And
and as you get older, like again, anybody, literally anybody, think of anything that you do right now and what you've learned. When you first started doing what you're doing, what was a big problem or blew your mind then is nothing to you today. Now, what are your big problems today? And look at that problem, then go back to that person you were 5 years ago and say, how would I look at that problem then? Your head would have exploded. I can't even fathom the stuff that I deal with on a daily basis dealing with that stuff in my first year in business, that would have been it. There would have been no business. There would have been no Greg. I would have been done. But you adapt and you grow into that. And that's why people, well, again, there's always the one-offs, right? I always like to use this because everybody, oh, what about this one guy who, yeah, we know there's that one guy. Talking about the general population of people. The people who are the big problem solvers are the ones who make the money. Real big problems, not your big problems, like actual big problems. Bigger the problem, the bigger the problem you can solve, the more you should make, and the more people do make.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy years ago to potentially come on board as one of the salespeople. And quick side note, I can tell you with confidence the reason that I didn't go after and hire him is because I was intimidated by him. Guy was an absolute weapon. I was also, a lot more immature in my leadership and business, and the guy was just better, and that intimidated me, and also I wasn't sure that I could effectively lead him because of his experience and talent. Worked out better for him. He ended up starting his own company, specializing in what he knew, and his company still runs today. He built a very good company, but that's just that caliber of individual. But the reason he was job hunting was he solved $1 million problem in his company. He'd been with his company for 25 years, and he solved something internally for that company that saved them $1 million in a year. And he got no reward and no recognition for it. Yeah. And that's why he was like, okay, well, fuck me, right? I guess I'm going to go somewhere else. So we're talking about somebody who was a true intrapreneur, dedicated, loyal, committed to the company, had the ability to solve high dollar problems, and they lost him because they weren't willing to reward his efforts. If someone saved us $1 million in a year, I'd be like, how much do you want? What do you want your bonus to be this year? Just tell me.
You tell me.
Tell me, and then double it, and we're good. It's just the ROI is there because it's proven, because that's a repeatable, scalable process. So now they're going to save $1 million a year every year. They were doing about $25 to $30 million in revenue, and they saved $1 million. Like, that's fucking huge.
That is huge.
So, yeah. So I share that story because, again,
and that happens every day.
It does happen every day. It's like, okay, if you had somebody on your team that brought in a contract, whether it's a large maintenance contract or a large sale or a large client, whatever, just because they did it, because they care, because they have those skills, they weren't prompted to do it. If they just did that, you need to pay them for that. You need to reward them for that, because they went above and beyond. So you're expected to reward them above and beyond. Instead of just like, oh, hey, thanks. Now we got a client we do, $200,000, $250,000 a year with, and they get nothing. No, you can share some of the percentage of the profit from that client. It can be specific, but you need to reward that individual because you want them to do it again. Instead of leave because you're an ass, and then guess where that client's going to go? They're going to go with them. And now you're not only going to lose a client, you're going to lose one of your top performers. People want to be valued. And it wasn't the money that guy was upset about. It was the fact that they didn't even say thanks.
Wow.
So you have
Well, I
to
mean,
you have to treat entrepreneurs different.
it's two wild sides to that, right? Like there's the small shops who don't know any better because they just decided to start a business, so they don't know how to lead and reward, incentivize, and elevate, and all the things we talk about. So the people just grow through that ceiling in minutes because they outgrow their leader in a matter of a year or two, or not even sometimes months, because the leader doesn't know, the lack thereof leader, I should say. Then there's the corporate side, the big companies where you come up with a great idea and either it never really makes it to the right people for multiple reasons, or somebody steals it. And really it's for the same reason. It's because people, one, don't want you to be smarter than them. So if you're the field tech, and then you get the PM and the project manager all the way up to the president is never going to see that you came up with that idea. Somebody in the middle is going to be like, no way am I going to let that guy be smarter than me, because he's going to take my job. So I'm going to take credit for it, or I'm going to shut it down before it even gets there. I've seen great ideas get squashed before they even have an opportunity to become real, because somebody doesn't want that idea to get out to make them look stupid. That sucks. That happens so much in big companies and corporate. It's ridiculous and it's disgusting. It disgusts me. How people like that can go to sleep at night and just, you suck at your job and somebody's better than that and you don't want to give them recognition. Shame on you. Be a man or a woman, whatever you want to be. Have some dignity.
I am often surprised. Surprised is the right word. Impressed is not the right word. I am often surprised at how much pain and suffering and misery an individual is willing to endure by staying at a place that they hate. And they'll do it for years or decades.
Decades.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the fear of the unknown is greater than the pain of the known.
Well, it's the case with anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard for me to think that way because I'm not wired that way.
What is happening? There we go. I will exhaust all of myself and my options and my ability before I abandon. I don't just emotionally quit jobs. Fucking computer's fucking up here. Sorry. So I will endure to a point, but at some point I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. Like I don't know what the cause is. I'm not going to say that I have too much respect for myself, but I'm not going to just be in misery for 20 years because, well, this is how it is. That it's just the company. I don't know. My point is, like, I'm surprised at what the pain and suffering and misery people are willing to endure and not fucking change it, not try to level up, not try to elevate, not try for promotions and upgrades and entrepreneurship and all that kind of shit. They'll just ride that fucking bus to the end.
I think a lot of that is external that becomes internal. Whether it's you're growing up or your environment or your circle of friends or your friends, family, parent, girlfriend, wife, whatever the case may be. I think there's a lot of influence there, and who you surround yourself with is who you become. So if you're stuck with a negative Nancy who hates their boss all day and she's miserable and I guess that's how it goes. So I have the same thing at my work. I guess I'll just do what you do and keep going to work and bitching about it every day.
You pour into my cup, I'll pour into your cup and just drink the same toxic water.
Or you're such an introvert that you don't talk to anybody and you just create your own narrative in your head and you end up with the same result. I know both sides. That's why I say that. I know people who are just totally destructive in their own mind and everybody around them's like, you're awesome and you can do better. And they're like, no, I suck. then I'm going to go home and tell myself I suck all day long, and therefore they suck. And then you got the opposite. You got the people that just are surrounded. They feel like they can try and they want to do better, but you got the people just hanging on them, pulling them down every day. Sucks. That's a whole different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I do have to remind myself often of how limited I am to corporate. The companies that you and I work in, high performing people.
Well, again, that just comes down to our standards.
Yeah. The clients that we have, high performing people, right? The people that we spend time with on outside standards. That's right. And that's what I mean. It's, I have built this moat of performance and standards around me. So I have like a fraction of a percentage of my day is exposed to poor performance. The outside. Yes.
Yeah. The other side of the moat.
Yes. The other side of the moat. Like even, and this is what's interesting too. Like, I also, with the HVAC company, like I still work with the public. You know, I still go in people's houses and work on the air conditioners and, you know, listen to them talk about their grandkids. I've probably over the decades have learned how to filter that. It doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't affect it. But I will tell you, I've also gotten really, really good at navigating the level of conversation that we're going to have when I'm in your house.
Yeah, but that just comes with time, wisdom.
Yeah, that's tens of thousands of reps, right? Like standing at someone's kitchen table.
But again, you aren't just blessed with this gift. Like, yes, you have the gifts and talents, but you've put in the reps. You've worked toward this, no different than problem solving. And this is just a form of problem solving, everything you're talking about. But it starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't, I don't think you were 14 years old saying, my standards are going to be these type of people, and that's who I'm going to hang out with. I'm going to build this moat, and nobody's going to touch me. I'm going to be unstoppable. No, you figure it out along the way, and it sucks.
No, you're right. At 14, I was 5 foot tall and had a mullet, so I didn't have a lot going for me. I didn't have a lot figured out.
And that's one thing I've learned through, again, just the journey of self-discovery, awareness, improvement, all of that. Like just learning some of this stuff. Like you can talk to and listen to the smartest and greatest minds on the planet. You're not their mind. And it takes reps to get there. You got to start somewhere small. And yes, if you don't see results tomorrow, keep doing the thing. And in 10 years, I said 10 years, you can look back and say, oh shit, look how far I come. But you know what? It's like anything else in the world. It's compounding. It compounds. No different than putting $1 in the bank and letting it earn interest and compound over years. At the end of 30 years, there's a hell of a lot more money in there than there would be if you just tried to save X amount of dollars every day.
I heard.
So the same goes with self-improvement, help, understanding, learning. It compounds.
Yeah. Kevin Hart, one of his interviews one day, he said the comedian Kevin Hart. He said the hardest thing in the world is getting up, doing everything right, doing everything at 100%, doing everything that you wanted to do, and nothing happens. And then getting up tomorrow and doing it again.
I've had a lot of those days.
Oh my God.
Where you give it your all and you're like, well, I achieved nothing today.
The needle did not move.
And some days it goes way the other direction.
It does. It does. But I think that is one of the hardest things in the world is to put out all effort with the expectation to win. Nothing happens. You win nothing, and you have to get up tomorrow and do it again, no matter what.
Yep. You fight the same race tomorrow, regardless of your feelings.
And learning to manage your instant gratification.
But so what I've learned is a lot of that is it's pattern recognition. Like your own patterns, not the worldly patterns too, but like when this happens, I respond like this. And the first step is to just see it. Can't do anything about it because you're just going to react anyways. But then you slowly start to be like, okay, I'm tired of reacting this way. I'm tired of doing this way. Next time I do this, I'm going to beat myself up a little bit over it because I'm an idiot. Then slowly but surely you stop doing it because you're like, I'm not going to be the idiot today. And then some days it'll jump out of nowhere and bite you and it'll happen. But it's just understanding that repetition and that pattern to create a new habit that'll slowly start. And you won't even see it happen. It just kind of happens. So there's no like party like, oh, I've made it and I can do it. Yeah, maybe 10 years from now you can look back and say, shit, I used to think like a moron. I'm so much better now. But there is no, it's just putting in the reps. That's it. You just go and you grind and you put in the work and you put in the reps and you try to improve yourself. And you constantly work at that. Yes, you're going to have bad days. It's okay. But you get up again tomorrow and you try again and you push harder. Yeah, there's some days you're going to be like, there's no way I'm doing this right. This is wrong. I'm going to quit. And then the next day you wake up and you do it again. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I was talking to Becca the Beast this weekend, and she's always interested in how things are going with us, and how I'm always interested in her and Matt and what's going on, and I said, and this was last Saturday. I was talking to her. I said, I got to be honest. I said I was kind of a whiny bitch this week. I said I just feel like I'm losing and I'm tired. But that Saturday, I said, I woke up today and I was like, all right, you whiny ass bitch, are you done? Because we've got work to do. And I got up and put my boots on and fucking got right back after it. And I feel like I've been killing it ever since. And my point to that is it's okay to feel like shit and feel like you're not winning and know that, but it's not okay to fucking quit.
It's also very, very, very okay to hold yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I've called myself a whiny ass bitch quite a few times. Sometimes I've even called you, Josh, and been like, hey, I'm being a whiny ass bitch. You're going to listen to it, and then we're just going to go do the thing.
We're going to do it. Okay.
But you're going to listen to it for a minute.
Those are true conversations. That is real life.
And I always started with, I'm not complaining.
Yep, that's right. Just got to get it out, and then we get it done.
But I'm going to vent. I'm going to call myself a whiny ass bitch, and we're going to go. I recognize what's happening. I just need you to hear it.
But what a great relationship you have with yourself, to be able to do that. And
it's okay. And there's times where you'll be pissed doing it. You'll be like, God, shit. It's okay. Better you than somebody else. That's the way I see it. Mm-hmm. I'd rather call me a bitch than somebody else to call me out as a bitch. So why don't I just get ahead of that and be like, I already know. I got it. I'm a whiny ass bitch. Get it. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, you're the reason I get up at 4:00 in the morning and go to the gym. So I was bragging about Katie and you're like, why don't you go? And I was like, oh, that's 4:00 in the morning. And he's like, oh, your girlfriend could go, but you can't get up and go, you pussy. And I was like,
hell no.
Oh.
We're getting up at 3:00 in the morning.
You're going to learn today. Fucking, I've been working on the morning since.
Accountability is a great thing.
True story. It is. It's a great thing. I was like, God. And I went home and told Katie, I was like, fucking Greg called me a pussy. I said, I'm going to the gym with you in the morning. Facts. Yes, facts. But anyway, quick update. Our next boot camp starts in May. Okay, kicks off in May. So now is the time to start thinking about it, to get enrolled. You can jump over to the Instagram. You can jump over to the website and find out more about it. You can message us. You can find out more about it. But our next one does kick off in May. Tonight we'll be through week 4 of this boot camp. It goes by so fast.
It does.
The 12 weeks fly by. But so anyway, yeah, put some thought into that. When you get into the boot camp, you get enrolled in our mastermind too. We've had people like Kevin Johnson of Welding Business Owner Podcast. We've had Nick Vazadis in here. Everybody in the welding world knows Nick. We've had Steve Rosenberg in there. We've had Charlie from Free to Grow. Like we've had the opportunity to have some pretty awesome people in there in our monthly mastermind. So, you get to exposed and interact and ask these people some questions. So it's a great benefit of being in there as well. Plus the community aspect of it. I mean, there's some absolute fucking monsters in that group. So
I can tell you for what it costs, like the ROI on it is ridiculous.
Day one.
Yeah, right. Day one. It's you got to try it. At least try it.
Mm-hmm. The access to that community is worth it. If we weren't going through a structured program, just the access to the people in that community that are doing it is worth the price of admission.
Without a question.
So jump over to the website, bluecollarinsiders.com. The Instagram is it's at bluecollarinsiders.com. I don't know what the tradesman experience. Oh, that's the email. I can't remember. I don't know if I need more coffee or more water, but anyway, thanks for spending this time with us. Get out there, get shit done. Be proud to be a tradesman. See ya.